Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale Books. I'm Emily,
I'm Greg.
and today we are going to be talking about The Impossible Planet by Philip K. Dick. So, another little dick!
Yes.
We got some short dicks here.
hmm
I'm excited about it.
And this one's number 31 in my listing of Philip Dick's work and was published in Imagination magazine in October of 1953.
We're still in
1953.
1953.
So he published a lot that
Wow,
year.
she was a machine.
Yep. And
Replicant.
I have it in We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, which I've shown before. It's a
Mm-hmm.
trade paperback. Very nice book
Mm-hmm. And I read it in the PDF we found online of that
of
Impossible,
imagination.
Imagination magazine.
So we're probably going to get into some spoilers here because I don't see how we
Yeah, there's
cannot.
no way not to, honestly. So,
So if you haven't read it, I recommend you go and read it
give it a
and
Google.
then come back to this video and listen to what we have to say because otherwise, I mean, we just can't really do justice talking to this without
Yeah, there's no good way. Like,
saying what
well,
it's all about.
it's one of those stories where the very last line is the one that changes the whole perspective of it.
And the idea of the story is,
Mhm.
that ending.
Yes.
So you want to take the synopsis?
Yeah, I'm ready. So, a captain and his first mate or co-pilot are approached by a woman who wants to buy a ticket to Earth. She is over 300 years old, and has a little robot with her. She's blind and deaf and very adamant about going to Earth. The problem is there is no such planet as Earth. And in fact, these gentlemen believe it to fully be a myth.
hmm
And so they're trying to debate with this deaf lady through her little robot, trying to get her to realize Earth's not real. And then the robot says she has like a lot of money. And they're like, oh, sure, we'll take you to Earth, no big deal. So they do a quick search in their systems and find a nine planet system where the third one from the star is, and they're just like, okay, well, we're just gonna go to that one and call it Earth.
Yep.
And it is a desolate planet. It's been bone drive resources for a long time. There's
hmm
like no inhabitants anymore. It's basically a really small trading outpost in the universe. And they decide to take this woman there and show it to her and tell her it's Earth. And she gets off and she's just devastated because she claims her grandfather told her all about Earth and it was green and there was water and all this stuff. And so she just wanders off with her robot and basically is so distraught by the state of this planet and can't believe that it's Earth, but she's so distraught by it, she dies.
hmm
And basically, the robot just takes her and rolls into the ocean, or what's left of it.
Uh-huh.
And then they're gone. And this captain and his co pilot are just sitting there like, the fuck? But here's the spoiler in like the last few lines of the book. The captain, as they're wandering back to the ship, looks down and sees something shiny and weird on the ground and picks it up, and it's in a US quarter.
hmm
So that changes the whole tone. It actually was Earth.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. This is kind of a depressing story, but also like kind of funny in a little like it's a dark humor in a little bit of it because you've got these greedy two captains who are just like one is more greedy than the other. But they're
hmm
basically just trying to appease this woman as she's nearing the end of her life and wants to see Earth. And it's like, well, we can't. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Earth's not real.
Yeah.
So it's a real interesting story.
hmm
But yeah.
And it's a story that really brings up what had become a common theme in science fiction by
Mhm.
1953, mainly. I think I want to say Asimov was the first in the Foundation series to talk about Earth as this place that nobody remembers where it is anymore.
It's acting
And
like a legend of the universe.
yeah, and so then did become kind of a common theme
Mm-hmm.
in quite a few science fiction stories, this being one of them. This is one of the very, very first Philip Dick stories I read. Can't remember where I read it. An anthology way back in 1970s
Mm-hmm.
that I read had this story in. Trying to think, was it Brian Aldiss's Galactic Empires? It might have been. But anyway, one of the very first Philip Dick stories I read, and I've always loved it. I've
Mm-hmm.
always thought this was a great story.
It is.
You know, it's a lot more human than
Mm-hmm.
most science fiction, a lot more character to it
Yes.
for a short story than
Mm-hmm.
most
And it is a
other
really
stories of
short
that time.
story.
Yeah. And then just the whole idea of, I mean, when you look at what we do to this planet with strip mining and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if you take that into the far future, yes, we could end up destroying Earth that way.
Yes. We
And
could have
so
a
then,
Wall-E situation.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would have to go somewhere else in order to survive
Mm-hmm.
and just forget about Earth because it would be useless anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our home,
Yeah.
and there would be people who would remember
Mm-hmm.
and have that nostalgia for what Earth used to be.
Yeah. And in the science fiction too, it talks about humans having abnormally long lives compared to what we have now. So there
Yeah.
would be those generations who have that verbal or oral history being passed on to the point where, yes, it would still be a myth. There would still be whisperings that Earth was real at one point,
Hmm.
but no confirmation. It's like our Atlantis.
Hmm.
Just whisperings that maybe it was real, but where?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's parallels to people's real lives of going back to the old neighborhood and finding out their whole block had been bulldozed and they put up some office building. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it, that's something that people really experience in
Yeah.
real life, and that's very much the sort of thing this woman is dealing with here,
Mm-hmm.
just taken to a much, much further degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, yeah, it is very human in that it's shocking sometimes. Like I remember when I moved away from the area during my high school years and came back and how much had changed in the 4 years I was gone.
Hmm.
4 years is not a lot of time when you
Hmm.
think about it. But in 4 years, everything was different.
Yeah.
So much was gone that hadn't been there, so much new stuff was around. It
Hmm.
was kind of weird coming back to my old community and being like, this is not the way I left it.
Yeah.
So, and even in this case, what she had was the idealized version before it was all used up, too.
Hmm.
So it was even worse for her.
Hmm.
Because what a jarring reaction when you're expecting there to be plant life and animals and oceans and all this stuff, and it's a dead desert planet with a sad excuse of ocean,
Yeah.
all poison and radiation.
Yeah. Kind of the flip side of this whole
Mm-hmm.
concept is the City series by Clifford Simak,
Mm-hmm.
where mankind has left the Earth, but they left their dogs and their robots behind to tend the Earth. So Earth has become this pastoral paradise, kind of like what this woman is expecting.
Yep. Mm-hmm. She's hoping that everything is exactly as it was left, and that's not the case.
Hmm.
But yeah, it speaks a lot to climate change and it being a conversation even back then,
Hmm.
having it be an ongoing conversation, which I think is interesting. And it
Yeah.
kind of goes into we had been talking about wanting to do more natural disaster
Yeah.
kind of stories in the future, so stay tuned for that. But this is a good kind of segue into that a little bit as we're starting to dabble in that a
Hmm.
little more. I think this is really interesting. Like, there's no, because this whole history is gone.
Yeah.
This planet has zero history, and yet so much happened to it before it became what it was.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of the same with the person too. We're dealing with this woman who's 300 some odd years old, has had a lot happen to her. She's also, near death herself and blind and,
Hmm.
deaf. She can't
Yeah.
hear or see very well, and she just wants to have an experience before she's gone,
Right.
to just have that memory.
Hmm.
I think that's really an interesting and very
Yeah.
deep comparison, the
Yeah.
planet and the woman.
Hmm. And a lot of people hate short stories, but it always amazes me because you have really well done short stories like this that have so much packed into them.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases more in this one little short story than you'll get out of a whole novel from
Mm-hmm.
some other writer.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing to me. This was a really fast read. It's hardly 2 pages in
Yeah,
imagination.
yeah,
Um, and it was a breeze to get through. It's very minimal dialogue.
hmm,
The world building isn't even that profound either,
no, you
but
don't
you,
need it to be. It's a
yeah,
bad world.
it, but you get so much out of it.
Yeah,
And that just always continues to impress me.
yeah,
So, top tail. I love
yep,
this one.
me
This was
too.
so good.
This has always been a favorite of mine. Like I
Hmm.
say, I read this 50 years ago,
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. I love how it's still relevant now, too. Having been written so long ago and having so many generations that can still relate to it. I think
Hmm,
that is true classic.
hmm.
So, yeah, I really
Okay.
don't have much more to say about this one.
Nope, I think that covers it.
Hmm.
And so our next Philip Dick story coming up will be Project Earth.
Ooh.
We move on to December of 1953 finally.
Oh my gosh, we're almost out of 1953.
Yeah, well, there's 4 stories in
Oh
December
my
that we have
goodness.
to read. First one is titled Project Earth, and
Okay,
that'll be coming up sometime in the near
I'll
future,
sneeze.
along with all the other stuff we're doing.
Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
It's allergy season.
Oh, yeah.
Hit me in the face with a shovel. Anyway. But yeah, thanks guys for joining us. Like and subscribe. We're still working through Philip K. Dick, so join us for more. And of course, we do have our handy dandy playlist on our YouTube channel of what we've covered so far. So feel free to have a peruse through that. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.